All right, hello. I'm doing a review session for Unit 8, which is Motivation and Emotion. My name is Mrs. Brown, and this first video is specifically on motivation. Okay, so talking about the reasons why we do certain things, what motivates our behavior, and some of the different theories behind that. Okay, so the first two things we want to talk about, obviously, the definition of motivation: a need or desire that energizes and directs behavior. It's the reason why we, behave the way that we do. Okay, so the first theory is instinct theory. The idea behind an instinct is that it is not taught. It's something that is inborn, something that is automatic. It's not learned. Okay, so if it is a learned behavior, it can't be motivated by an instinct. All right, so we need to think about that when we're considering instinct theory. A lot of instinct theory applies to animals, but not necessarily to humans. But there are some behaviors that are motivated by instinct. Okay, so that's kind of the first theory for you. Another theory is incentive theory. Okay, so when we think of incentive, it's just what it sounds like. It's something, some sort of reward or incentive that motivates our behavior. So it's an external stimuli that's going to be like wealth or fame or money, like if your parents pay you an allowance and that's why you clean your room. Some sort of external stimuli that's going to motivate your behavior. The reason you're doing it is for some sort of incentive. Okay, and this is kind of where we get extrinsic motivation. People who are extrinsically motivated, a lot of the behavior that they're doing is for that incentive. Okay, it's an external reward. So if I'm extrinsically motivated to get good grades, I'm getting good grades because I want to get into a good college, or because my parents are going to give me money if I get good grades, not simply because I want to get good grades because I want to get good grades. That would be the internal motivation or the intrinsic motivation. So the intrinsically motivated person does things because they want to do them. It makes them feel good. They get more satisfaction out of doing it. And it's not for some sort of reward or incentive. Okay, so extrinsic really just kind of go with incentive theory. And what they found is that intrinsically motivated people tend to work harder and enjoy their work more. They get more fulfillment because they're not doing something simply for an incentive. So they're more consistent and they get more enjoyment out of their work. Okay, so that's incentive theory. Drive reduction theory. Okay, this is a big theory that you need to know for motivation. It talks about how, we basically are motivated by physiological needs, physical needs. And basically the physiological need creates a state of tension in your body that you are motivated then to satisfy that need. And so another name for that need is a drive. So this is where we get drive reduction. We want to reduce the drive. Okay, so drives are things like being hungry or being cold or thirsty or tired. All right, it's some sort of discomfort where your body is not in a state of homeostasis because you need to satisfy that drive. All right, so if you're cold, you need to get warm. You would do that by putting on a sweater or whatever. If you're hungry, you need to eat. If you're thirsty, you need to drink. So you need to satisfy these drives, okay? So the drive is what motivates the behavior because you're trying to satisfy the drive and get your body back to what we call homeostasis, all right? And homeostasis is this biological equilibrium. It's this state of balance. So if you're thirsty, your body's not in a state of homeostasis. If you're hungry, if you're tired, all right? If you satisfy the drive, then you can get your body back to that state by that homeostatic process, satisfying that drive to get yourself back to homeostasis. Okay, so homeostasis literally means balance. And any sort of physiological need that you're satisfying goes with drive reduction. All right, so we can talk about primary drives versus secondary drives. Obviously If it's something that you need to survive, that's going to be really important for you. But anytime that you're satisfying that biological need, it's going to be drive reduction. All right, so if you see something like physiological, biological, something like that, those are the keywords to look for drive reduction. All right, let's go to the next one. Optimum arousal theory. All right, so you might see just arousal, you might see optimum arousal. Basically, this theory emphasizes the human urge for optimum levels of stimulation. Right? We get bored. We do things that are not explained by biological needs. For example, skydiving. All right, you see this guy here, he's skydiving. There is no physiological need to go skydiving. In fact, it goes kind of against our basic needs, which is like survival, because you can die when you're skydiving. So there's no really reason that drive reduction would explain skydiving. However, optimum arousal theory does a great job of doing it because it talks about how humans are led to seek these optimum levels of arousal. How far can I push the envelope? I want to ride the roller coaster. I want to, do all these things that aren't explained by biological needs, okay? And so part of this is Yerkes-Dodson, all right? And think of Goldilocks, oh, it's too hot, oh, it's too cold, oh, it's just right, all right? So Yerkes-Dodson explains how we can be the most productive, how our performance is the best, is by having the just right level of arousal. All right, so for stress or anxiety, this is your arousal, okay, and then performance is here. So when you look at this, and what Yerkes-Dodson says is the highest performance level is the just right amount of arousal, okay? So you need to have some stress, otherwise you'll never be motivated, all right? A lot of people are externally motivated, extrinsic, and if I had no deadlines to apply to college, I might not do it. I might procrastinate. All right, so there needs to be some sort of stress, some sort of reason why. But if too much stress, if there's too much arousal, if there's too much stress on someone, then they start shutting down. They become frustrated and their performance level decreases. All right, so we're going to talk later on this year about Vygotsky and the zone of proximal development, and there's a similar concept with that. But Yerkes-Dodson says that performance and arousal rate are related. Performance and arousal rate are related. You need to have the optimum level of arousal for you, not too much and not too little, in order for your performance to be at its best. So this curve, looking at this curve, that's what, if you see a graph like that, you should be able to interpret that. Okay, Maslow, all right, this is another explanation for motivation besides things like incentives and instincts and, some of the other optimum arousal, drive reduction that we've already talked about, is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, okay? So this was a theory, Abraham Maslow's theory, and when you see this pyramid, you should recognize it as Maslow. All right, so we have at the very bottom physiological, then we have safety, belongingness and love, esteem, self-actualization, and now they've actually added at the top here self-transcendence. And so you may see self-actualization as the highest level, or you may see self-transcendence, depending on how updated what you're looking at is. But basically the idea is that we must satisfy the lower levels of Maslow first, this is what he said, in order to have the higher levels met. All right, so basically, you're not going to be able to be loved if you're starving to death. All right, you're not going to be able to learn if you're freezing. You're not going to be able to, get your independence and autonomy needs met if you don't feel safe. All right, this is why in the classroom we really say that you have to create kind of this safe community, this safe environment. Because if people don't feel safe in the classroom, they're worried about their safety, they're not going to be able to learn anything. They're not going to be able to, do some of these higher things. So the idea is that these kind of build on each other, all right? So sometimes you'll hear like, why did Susie Q, decide to get her college degree? And according to Maslow, it might be because she needed to meet her achievement needs or her esteem needs. Why why did so-and-so decide to go on a diet and ignore their physiological needs? Well, because they were trying to meet their belongingness needs. So that kind of goes against Maslow and kind of shifts the pyramid a little bit. But this is the basic idea, is that Maslow said we're motivated by meeting these different needs in our lives. Okay? All right, so I'm going to stop this video and I'm going to go to the next video, which will talk about some other things.